What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of How to Options. In this episode, we'll be going over cash secured puts, covered calls, and the wheel strategy. Let's do it! Please hit the like button and please subscribe. Catch me every weekday after market close on the Smarter Gambling Show. Alright, let's start with cash secured puts. To understand cash secured puts, we first have to talk about selling naked puts. When you sell naked puts, your theoretical loss is unlimited. Therefore, it is very risky if your contracts finish in the money. Now, your brokerage will not allow you to sell naked options anyway, unless you have a portfolio margin account, which means you must have at least $100,000 in your account. But let's just show an example, just for argument's sake. So for example, this is what selling a naked put would look like. Here I have an AMC put expiring January 21st, 2022 for the $40 strike price. The premiums I collected for this trade was $1,800. So if we look at the graph, and we're only going to look at the blue line, ignore the purple line, we see here at the strike price of $40, my max gain is $1,800. It doesn't matter how much this moves to the upside, our max gain is always $1,800. But now we see the more this moves to the downside, the more the underlying moves below the strike price of $40, the more money I'm going to lose. And we can see here, the further we go, I can actually go in the negative. So we see my loss is theoretically infinite. So in order to mitigate this theoretical infinite loss, we have to sell cash secured puts, not naked puts. So cash secured puts are when you put up the cash in order to purchase 100 shares per contract at the strike price. So this can be very expensive. So just like selling naked puts, your gains are capped. Your max gain is equal to the premiums collected. And this happens when the contract finishes out of the money. Now the difference is that your losses are also capped. When selling naked puts, you can actually go into the negative, whereas if you're selling cash secured puts, it can only go to zero. And this is because if the contract finishes in the money, you are then obligated to buy 100 shares per contract at the strike price. So if the stock goes to zero, your max loss would be equal to your initial investment. This is a good strategy because if the contracts finish out of the money, you keep the premium and nothing else happens. The contracts expire worthless. Now, if they finish in the money, you get to keep the premiums and you get to buy the stock at a lower price. So if AMC is at $45 now and you want AMC at $40, you can sell cash secured puts for the 40 strike, and if it goes below $40, you get to keep your premium and you get to buy AMC at $40, which you would have wanted anyway. Okay, now let's talk about selling covered calls. We first have to talk about selling naked calls. It's more or less the same as selling naked puts. Your theoretical loss is unlimited. Therefore, it is very risky if the contracts finish in the money. So here's an example of a naked call. I sold a naked call for AMC, $60 strike, expiring January 21st, 2022 for $2,200. Now we can see on the graph that as long as this stays below $60, the strike price, our max gain is $2,200, which is the premium I collected for this. But if this moves above $60, the more it goes in the money, the more money I'll be losing. So my theoretical loss is unlimited. So to mitigate this unlimited loss, we have to sell covered calls. This is when you put up 100 shares per contract as collateral. Now this can be expensive because you need to own all of these shares. The benefit of selling covered calls is that your losses are capped. Your theoretical max loss is at $0 because the stock can only go to $0. The max gain is equal to the premium collected. Your gains are capped, and this allows shares to be sold at the strike price if the contract finishes in the money. So this is good if you bought the shares for cheaper than your strike price, if the contract finishes in the money above the strike price, not only are you making on the premium, you are also making on the profit between what you bought the shares at and what you sold it at, which is the strike price. The only downside is you may miss out on large gains if the stock blows past the strike price. So if this moons way past the strike price, your max gain is still gonna be limited to the premium and what you sold your stock for. You could have made way more money if you just held on to the shares. So here's an example of a covered call. We have the same exact contract as before, AMC, expiring January 21st, 2022 at the $60 strike. But now I have 100 shares of AMC to put up as collateral. And let's just pretend I bought AMC for $50 a share. So we see the graph is completely different now. If the underlying asset goes in the money past $60, our max gain would be capped at $3,200. This is because we would make our $2,200 for selling the call, and then we'd make another $1,000 from the profit from selling the stock. So we would do 60 times 100, because that's what we would sell our stock for, minus 50 times 100, because that's what we bought our stock at, plus 2,200, which is what we collected on the premium for the call. So there we have it, gain of $3,200. Now if this moves to the downside, the stock can only go down to $0. So our losses are capped to our initial investment. Now let's talk about the wheel strategy. This is a strategy that I personally like to use a lot. It combines the cash secured put and the covered call, and it is a very, very powerful strategy. This is a theta decay strategy, meaning you want to collect money on the premiums. So more IVR is good, because the higher the IVR, the more premiums you collect. If set up correctly, you cannot lose money if you are long on the stock and are willing to hold it. This is a neutral to bullish strategy. To execute the wheel, to set this up, you first sell cash secured puts. If the contracts expire worthless, you keep repeating this until the shares are assigned to you, meaning it goes in the money. So you sell the puts, you keep collecting the premiums over and over and over until eventually, inevitably, you will be assigned. So you have to buy 100 shares times how many contracts you sold at the strike price. Then, once the shares are assigned, you then turn around and start selling covered calls against those shares and make sure the strike price is the same or above the strike price of what you sold the cash secured puts at. This is very important because this guarantees that you will not lose money. Again, if you are willing to hold the stock. So same thing. If the contract expires worthless, you just keep selling covered calls and keep collecting premiums. And you do this until eventually the shares are called away, meaning the contract finishes in the money. So eventually the underlying will come back to where it was and you collected all that premium along the way. And then you can reinvest your profits and take advantage of compounding growth. There is no risk to the upside with the wheel strategy due to the covered calls, and your max loss is capped due to the cash secured put. The stock can only go down to $0. So your net premium collected would equal your max gain, and this is achieved when the contracts expire worthless. This strategy allows a better entry price if assigned on your cash secured puts, and a better exit price if you're assigned on your covered calls. So quick recap, cash secured puts are good because you would collect premium on your puts, and if you're long the stock and would buy it at the strike price anyway, you would receive the stock at the strike price and collect premiums at the same time. Then once you're assigned, you start selling covered calls. Covered calls are good because you keep collecting the premiums on them, and if you set the strike price at or above the strike price of the cash secured puts, you cannot lose money. In fact, you would make even more money if you set the strike price above the cash secured put strike price, because then you would make profit not only on the premium, but you would make profit on selling the stock as well. So you get two ways of making profit there. All in all, the wheel strategy is a very, very powerful strategy. I love using this strategy. It's very simple. Anyone can use this. And it doesn't really matter which way the underlying moves. You're going to be making money either way. And that does it for this episode of How To Options. We went over the benefits of cash secured puts and covered calls and how we can combine both of those strategies into the very powerful wheel strategy. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button and please subscribe. Catch me every weekday after market close on the Smarter Gambling Show. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.